Good evening, dear friends. Tonight I'm going to show you that there is no journey to your desires because there is nowhere to go. I'm going to reveal that the gap between where you are and where you want to be is not a distance to be traveled, but an illusion to be dissolved. Most remarkably, I'm going to demonstrate that you arrive at your destination the moment you realize you were never actually traveling. You were already there. The discovery that changed everything came to me through a conversation with a young woman who had been struggling with manifestation for months. She approached me after a lecture, visibly exhausted and discouraged. "Neville," she said, "I've been trying to manifest my ideal life for so long. I visualize every day. I affirm constantly. I hold the feeling of my wish fulfilled. But it's been 8 months, and I still feel like I'm so far away from where I want to be. When will I finally get there?" As she spoke, I noticed something profound in her language. She kept referring to her desires as somewhere she needed to get to, as if they existed in some distant location that required travel time to reach. She was treating manifestation like a journey from point A to point B, complete with the exhaustion that comes from believing you have a long way to go. I said to her, "My dear, you speak of your desires as if they exist somewhere else, and you are here trying to reach them there. But consciousness knows no here and there. In consciousness, everywhere is here and every time is now. Your ideal life doesn't exist in some future location. It exists right here in consciousness, right now, waiting not to be reached but to be recognized." She looked puzzled, so I continued. "You believe there is a time gap between your current experience and your desired experience. You think you must travel through time to get from where you are to where you want to be. But time is not a highway you travel upon. Time is a dimension you can collapse through the power of recognition." I spent the next hour teaching this woman how to close the time gap, not by traveling faster toward her goals, but by recognizing that she had never been separate from them. I showed her how to shift from the consciousness of getting there to the consciousness of being there right now. The transformation was immediate and profound. Within weeks, circumstances began aligning in ways that seemed miraculous. Opportunities appeared that collapsed months of expected progress into days. People entered her life who accelerated her path beyond anything she had imagined possible. But the most remarkable change was in her energy. She no longer carried the weary vibration of someone traveling a long distance. She radiated the peaceful confidence of someone who had arrived. You see, the time gap between desire and fulfillment is not real. It's a construction of the linear mind that believes in separation between now and then, here and there, current reality and desired reality. But consciousness operates beyond linear time. In consciousness, your desire and its fulfillment exist simultaneously in the eternal now. When you desire something, the desire is actually consciousness recognizing a possibility that already exists. The very fact that you can conceive of a specific outcome means that outcome already exists in the infinite field of potential. Your job is not to create that outcome or travel to it. Your job is to close the gap between your current awareness and your eternal reality. Think about this deeply. Every desire you've ever had was born from consciousness recognizing something that already exists in the realm of infinite possibility. You cannot desire something that doesn't already exist somewhere in the fabric of reality. Desire is not creation. Desire is recognition. This means that the gap between you and your fulfilled desire is not a gap in time or space, it's a gap in recognition. You are not moving toward your desire. You are moving toward recognizing that you and your desire were never separate. Let me tell you about a businessman who grasped this principle so completely that he transformed his entire approach to success. He came to me feeling overwhelmed by the long journey he believed lay ahead of him. "Neville," he said, "I want to build a multi-million-dollar company, but I'm starting with almost nothing. The experts say it will take at least 10 years to achieve this level of success. I feel so discouraged by how far I have to go." I said to him, "You are looking at success as a distant destination that requires a decade-long journey to reach. But success is not a place you travel to. Success is a consciousness you embody. In the dimension of consciousness where you already are the successful business leader you desire to be. No time needs to pass because no journey needs to be taken. But I don't have the company yet, he protested. I don't have the revenue, the team, the market position. These things clearly need to be built over time. These things need to be expressed over time, I corrected, but they don't need to be achieved over time. Achievement happens in consciousness instantly. Expression happens in the physical world gradually. When you close the gap between your current identity and your successful identity, the physical expression accelerates dramatically. I taught this man to stop thinking of himself as someone who was going to become successful and start experiencing himself as someone who was already successful, but simply hadn't expressed it fully yet. Instead of feeling like he was at the beginning of a long journey, he learned to feel like he was at the perfect point in the unfolding of his inevitable success. The results were extraordinary. Within 2 years, not 10, he had built exactly the company he had envisioned. But more importantly, he never again experienced the exhaustion and discouragement that comes from believing you have a long way to go. He had learned to close the time gap by recognizing that where he wanted to be and where he was were the same place seen from different levels of awareness. This brings us to one of the most liberating truths about manifestation. You don't have to wait for your good, because your good isn't coming to you. You're coming to the recognition of your good that already exists. Most people exhaust themselves trying to pull their desires from some imaginary future into their present reality. They visualize, affirm, and take action while maintaining the underlying belief that their good exists somewhere else in time, and they must somehow bring it here. But consciousness doesn't work that way. Consciousness doesn't pull things from the future. Consciousness recognizes what already exists in the eternal present. Your desires don't live in tomorrow. They live in the timeless dimension of infinite possibility that exists right now. When you truly understand this, you stop trying to make things happen and start allowing things to be recognized. You stop pushing toward your goals and start pulling back the veil that has been hiding them from your awareness. I remember a woman who had been trying to manifest her ideal romantic relationship for 3 years. She came to me exhausted from the effort. Neville, she said, I'm so tired of waiting for my soulmate to show up. I've done everything: visualization, scripting, social events, personal development. I feel like I'm running towards something that keeps moving further away. I said to her, you speak as if your perfect partner exists somewhere in the future and you must chase him through time. But perfect love doesn't exist in tomorrow. It exists in the eternal dimension of consciousness right now. The gap between you and your beloved is not a gap in time, it's a gap in recognition. I taught this woman to stop chasing love through time and start recognizing love in the present. Instead of feeling like someone who is going to find love, she learned to feel like someone who was already deeply loved but simply hadn't recognized her beloved yet. As she made this shift from seeking to recognizing, everything changed. She stopped the frantic activity of trying to find love and started radiating the peaceful energy of someone who knows love is already theirs. Within 3 months, she met and fell in love with a man who perfectly matched the consciousness she had been cultivating. But here's what was most remarkable. When they met, it felt like a recognition rather than a meeting. It felt like they had always known each other, always been connected, and were simply remembering what had always been true. This is what happens when you close the time gap. Manifestation feels like recognition rather than achievement. It feels like coming home rather than arriving somewhere new. It feels like remembering rather than learning. The secret to closing the time gap lies in understanding the difference between expression and existence. Your desires already exist in consciousness. They don't need time to exist. Time is only required for the expression of what already exists. When you stop confusing expression with existence, you can relax into the knowing that your good already is, even while you patiently allow it to express in the physical world. You can feel fulfilled now, while calmly watching your fulfillment unfold in form. This understanding completely transforms your relationship with time. Instead of feeling like time is working against you, you realize that time is working for you. Instead of feeling like you're racing against some cosmic clock, you understand that you're perfectly on schedule for the unfolding of what already is. Now, you might wonder, if closing the time gap is so simple, why don't more people experience instant manifestation? The answer lies in the difference between intellectual understanding and embodied knowing. Intellectually, you can understand that your desires already exist in consciousness. But emotionally and energetically, you might still be carrying the vibration of someone who has a long way to go. You might still be thinking, feeling, and acting like someone who is traveling toward their goals rather than someone who has already arrived. Closing the time gap requires more than changing your thoughts. It requires changing your entire energetic signature. You must learn to feel like someone who has already arrived, even while your physical circumstances are still catching up to your consciousness. This is why I often tell people, you get there when you realize you're already there. The destination you're seeking is not a future achievement, it's a present recognition. You don't arrive through travel, you arrive through awakening. I knew a young man who understood this so completely that he transformed his entire career in what seemed like record time. He was working in a job he hated, dreaming of becoming a professional musician. Everyone told him it would take years to build the skills, connections, and reputation necessary for success in the music industry. But instead of accepting a timeline that felt overwhelming, he chose to close the time gap. He stopped thinking of himself as someone who was going to become a musician, and started being a musician who simply hadn't been recognized yet. He didn't wait to feel like a musician until he had a record deal. He felt like a musician while he was still working his day job. He didn't wait to act like a professional until he was making money from music. He acted like a professional while he was still playing for free. Within 18 months, he was offered a recording contract that launched his professional music career. But the most remarkable thing was that the success felt natural, inevitable, and perfectly timed rather than surprising or lucky. He had closed the time gap by recognizing himself as already being what he desired to become. The external recognition simply caught up to his internal reality. This is the practical application of closing the time gap. You become now what you want to be later. You feel now what you want to feel then. You think now what you want to think when your desires are fulfilled. But let me be clear about something important. Closing the time gap doesn't mean you stop taking action or become passive. It means you take action from the consciousness of someone who has already arrived, rather than someone who is desperately trying to get somewhere. When you close the time gap, your actions become inspired rather than desperate, confident rather than anxious, natural rather than forced. You act from fullness rather than emptiness, from knowing rather than hoping, from being rather than becoming. The time gap is not a period you must endure. It's an illusion you can dissolve. The journey to your desires is not a distance you must travel. It's a recognition you can make right now. Your desires are not waiting for you in some future moment. They are waiting for your recognition in this eternal moment. You don't need to get there because you are already there. You just need to close the time gap by opening your awareness to what already is. So tonight I invite you to examine your relationship with time and manifestation. Notice where you are carrying the energy of someone who has a long way to go. Observe where you are thinking of your desires as distant destinations rather than present realities. Then begin to practice closing the time gap. Instead of feeling like you're working toward your goals, feel like you're expressing your goals. Instead of thinking you're becoming who you want to be, recognize that you already are who you want to be in consciousness. Feel the relief of arriving rather than the exhaustion of traveling. Experience the peace of recognition rather than the anxiety of achievement. Know the joy of being rather than the struggle of becoming. The time gap between you and your desires is not real. It's a measurement of your awareness, not a distance to be traveled. Close the gap by opening to the truth that you and your fulfilled desires exist in the same moment, in the same consciousness, in the same eternal now. You get there when you realize you're already there. Stop traveling and start recognizing. Stop becoming and start being. Stop waiting and start knowing. As always, thank you for joining me on this journey into the depths of consciousness. Remember, you are not here by accident. You are here because your soul is ready for this truth. Take these teachings and let them transform not just your mind, but your entire reality. Until we meet again in consciousness, keep assuming your greatness and living from the end of your desires. This is Best of Lectures. I will see you in the next video. Good evening, my dear friends. Tonight I want to share with you the most powerful technique I have ever discovered for transforming imagination into reality. It is a method so simple that a child could understand it, yet so profound that it holds the secret to every miracle recorded in Scripture and every success story throughout human history. The technique I'm going to reveal tonight requires no special equipment, no years of study, no complex rituals or ceremonies. It requires only one thing, your ability to feel. But not just any feeling, the specific feeling that accompanies the fulfillment of your deepest desires. I call this technique Feel It Real. And it is based on the fundamental truth that your subconscious mind cannot distinguish between a vividly felt imaginal experience and an actual physical experience. When you learn to feel your desires as already fulfilled, not as future possibilities but as present realities, you set in motion forces that must bring those desires into physical manifestation. The revelation of this truth came to me through a young woman who attended my lectures for months but experienced no change in her circumstances. She approached me one evening with tears of frustration. "Neville," she said, "I visualize every day just as you teach. I see myself in my ideal life with perfect clarity. But nothing happens. What am I doing wrong?" I observed her for a moment and asked, "When you visualize your ideal life, how do you feel?" "I feel hopeful," she replied, "sometimes excited about what could be." There was the problem. She was visualizing her desire while feeling hopeful about its future manifestation, rather than feeling the satisfaction of its present fulfillment. She was imagining from the consciousness of someone who didn't have her desire, rather than feeling from the consciousness of someone who already possessed it. I said to her, "Hope is the feeling you have when you believe something good might happen in the future. But I want you to feel something very different. I want you to feel the way you would feel if your desire had already happened, if it were already a completed fact in your life." I guided her through the process, step by step. "Close your eyes," I said, "and instead of seeing yourself getting your ideal life, I want you to feel yourself living it right now. What would you feel in your body if you woke up tomorrow morning and your dream life was already your reality? Feel that sensation of satisfaction, of completeness, of knowing that everything you desired has come to pass." She closed her eyes, and I watched her face change as she entered into this new feeling. "I can feel it," she whispered. "I feel peaceful, grateful, like everything is exactly as it should be." "That's it," I said. "That feeling of peaceful gratitude, that's the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Not excitement about what might happen, but deep satisfaction with what has already happened. Make that feeling so real that your body believes it's experiencing this fulfillment right now." I taught her to spend 15 minutes each evening before sleep, immersed in this feeling, not visualizing or thinking about her desire, but feeling the reality of its completion. "Let this feeling fill every cell of your body," I instructed. "Breathe with it, relax into it, let it become your natural state of being." Within 3 months, every aspect of her visualized life had manifested in her physical experience. Not because she had finally convinced her conscious mind that it was possible, but because she had convinced her subconscious mind that it was real. You see, the subconscious mind operates on the principle of feeling, not logic. It responds to the emotional conviction behind your mental images, not to the images themselves. You can create the most vivid, detailed visualizations imaginable, but if they are not accompanied by the feeling of their reality, they remain merely daydreams. But when you add the element of feeling, when you actually experience the emotions that would naturally accompany the fulfillment of your desire, something magical happens. Your subconscious accepts the imagined experience as real and begins to create external conditions that match your internal experience. This is why Jesus taught, "Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours." Notice that he didn't say, "Believe that you will receive it." He said, "Believe that you have received it." Feel the reality of having it right now. Let me tell you about a businessman who mastered this technique so completely that his colleagues began calling his results miraculous. He came to me struggling with a failing company and mounting debts. Traditional business advice hadn't worked, and he was facing bankruptcy. I taught him to ignore his current circumstances completely and instead spend time each day feeling the reality of his business success. Not hoping for success, not visualizing success, but feeling successful. I want you to understand something crucial. I explained to him. Your subconscious mind speaks the language of feeling, not logic. So we're going to give it a new set of feelings to work with. I guided him through the exact process. Every evening before sleep, lie in bed and close your eyes. Now feel what it would be like if your business was already thriving. Feel the deep satisfaction in your chest, the sense of accomplishment, the calm confidence that comes with success. Feel your shoulders relaxing as the stress of financial worry melts away. Feel your breathing becoming deeper and more peaceful. Experience the lightness in your body that comes with knowing your company is profitable and secure. Let these feelings become so real that your body responds as if this success is happening right now. But how do I make it feel real when my circumstances say otherwise? He asked. By understanding that feeling is not dependent on circumstances, I replied. Right now, close your eyes and feel what it's like to be confident about your business decisions. Feel the certainty in your solar plexus, the calm authority in your voice when you speak to clients. Make this feeling so convincing that your nervous system believes you are already the successful businessman you desire to be. I taught him to practice this feeling daily. Each morning before you check your financial reports, spend 5 minutes feeling successful. Feel the joy of leading a team that respects you, the satisfaction of providing excellent service, the peace of knowing your business serves its purpose beautifully. Within 6 months, his business had completely turned around. Opportunities appeared that he had never noticed before. Clients began seeking him out. His decision-making became more intuitive and effective. His entire approach to business had transformed because his feeling about business had transformed. The secret lies in understanding that feeling is the language of the subconscious mind. Your subconscious doesn't understand words or logic. It understands only the feeling behind your thoughts and images. When you consistently feel the reality of your desire fulfilled, you are speaking directly to your subconscious in its native language. But you must understand the difference between emotional excitement about getting something and the calm satisfaction of already having it. Many people confuse these two states. They get excited about the possibility of their desire manifesting and mistake this excitement for the feeling of fulfillment. Excitement about getting something in the future maintains you in the consciousness of not having it now. The feeling of fulfillment places you in the consciousness of already possessing it. These are completely different frequencies, and they produce completely different results. Let me share with you the story of a woman who wanted to manifest her ideal romantic relationship. For months, she would visualize meeting her perfect partner and feel excited about the possibility. But excitement about meeting someone affirms that you haven't met them yet. I taught her to shift from feeling excited about finding love to feeling loved. Instead of imagining meeting her ideal partner, she learned to feel what it was like to be in a loving relationship right now. Let me show you exactly how to do this, I said to her. Close your eyes and put your hand on your heart. Feel it beating. Now I want you to feel what it's like to be completely cherished by someone who adores you. Not the excitement of meeting them, but the warm, secure feeling of being loved right now. I guided her through the process. Feel that gentle warmth spreading through your chest. That's the feeling of being treasured. Feel your shoulders dropping as tension melts away. That's the feeling of being accepted completely. Feel a soft smile naturally forming on your lips. That's the feeling of being delighted in. Now, I continued, imagine lying in bed at night, but instead of feeling alone, feel the contentment of sharing your life with someone wonderful. Feel the peace of knowing you are chosen, valued, understood. Don't picture this person. Feel the emotions of being with them. Let your body relax into the security of being deeply loved. I instructed her to practice this daily. Each evening before sleep, spend 10 minutes feeling beloved. Feel the gratitude in your heart for having such a beautiful connection. Feel the ease of being yourself completely with someone who appreciates every part of you. Make this feeling so natural that it becomes your dominant emotional state. But won't I be disappointed when I wake up alone? She asked. No, I replied, because you're not waking up alone. You're waking up as someone who knows what it feels like to be loved. You're waking up in the consciousness of love. And consciousness always manifests as experience. Within 2 months, she met a man who perfectly matched not her visualization of what her ideal partner should look like, but the feeling of how her ideal relationship should feel. Their connection was immediate and deep because she was already living in the consciousness of being loved. This brings us to the most important aspect of feeling it real. You must feel from your desire, not think about your desire. When you think about something, you maintain separation from it. When you feel from something, you become one with it. For example, if you desire financial abundance, you don't want to feel excited about having money someday. You want to feel what it's like to be someone for whom abundance is natural and normal. You want to experience the calm confidence that comes with financial security, the freedom to make choices without monetary constraints, the joy of being able to help others generously. I remember a student who wanted to become a professional musician but was stuck playing small venues for little pay. He would visualize performing on grand stages and feel excited about his potential success. But excitement about future success kept him locked in present struggle. I taught him to feel like a successful musician right now. During his practice sessions, he would feel the satisfaction of mastering his craft. Before small performances, he would experience the gratitude of touching people's hearts through his music. He learned to feel worthy of musical success rather than hoping for it. As his feeling shifted from aspiring musician to accomplished artist, everything began to change. His performances became more confident and compelling. Opportunities for better venues started appearing. Within a year, he was performing professionally and supporting himself entirely through his music. The key is specificity in your feeling. You must know exactly how you would feel if your desire were already fulfilled. Not how you think you would feel, but how you actually would feel. This requires you to use your imagination to enter into the feeling state completely. If you desire perfect health, you must feel what it's like to wake up each morning with vitality and energy. Feel your body moving with ease and strength. Experience the joy of physical wellness and the gratitude for a body that serves you perfectly. If you desire a loving marriage, feel the security of being truly known and accepted by your partner. Experience the warmth of companionship, the joy of shared dreams, the peace of knowing you have found your life's companion. If you desire professional success, feel the satisfaction of work that fulfills you. Experience the confidence that comes with recognized expertise, the joy of making a meaningful contribution, the security of being valued for your unique gifts. But remember, you must feel these things as present realities, not future possibilities. Your subconscious mind creates from what you are feeling now, not from what you hope to feel someday. The drowsy state just before sleep is the most powerful time for this practice, because your conscious mind is relaxed and your subconscious is most receptive. In this state, settle into the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Don't work at it, don't strain, simply allow yourself to experience the natural emotions that would accompany the realization of your heart's desire. Let me tell you about perhaps the most dramatic example of this that I have ever witnessed. A mother came to me whose teenage daughter had been missing for over a week. The police had no leads, and she was consumed with worry and fear. I said to her, instead of feeling the anguish of loss, feel the joy of reunion. Instead of fearing the worst, feel the relief of your daughter's safe return. This seemed impossible to her given the circumstances, but she was desperate enough to try anything. Every night, she would feel her daughter's arms around her. She would experience the overwhelming gratitude of having her child home safe. She would feel the peace that comes with knowing her daughter was protected and loved. 5 days after she began this practice, her daughter returned home unharmed. She had been staying with friends during a teenage rebellion and had finally decided to come back. But for the mother, the return felt less like a surprise and more like the natural fulfillment of what she had been feeling all along. Now you might wonder, how do I maintain this feeling when my current circumstances seem to contradict it? How do I feel wealthy when my bank account is empty, or feel loved when I'm alone? The answer is that feeling it real is not about denying your current circumstances. It's about claiming a reality that exists in a higher dimension of consciousness. Your current circumstances reflect your past feeling states. Your future circumstances will reflect your present feeling states. When you feel it real, you're not pretending that your current situation doesn't exist. You're creating a new situation by embodying the feeling of what you desire. You're not lying to yourself about what is, you're impressing upon your subconscious what you choose to become. The feeling must be sustained consistently over time. One night of feeling wealthy will not overcome years of feeling poor, but persistent feeling, night after night, builds momentum in your subconscious until the new state becomes your natural way of being. This is why I always recommend making feeling it real a daily practice, especially in the moments before sleep. Just as a river carves a canyon through consistent flow over time, consistent feeling carves new patterns in your subconscious mind. Some people ask me whether they should feel it real during the day or only at night. My answer is feel it real whenever you remember to do so. But be particularly diligent about your feeling state before sleep, because the impressions made in the drowsy state penetrate most deeply into the subconscious. During your daily activities, catch yourself when you slip back into old feeling patterns. If you desire abundance but find yourself feeling anxious about money, gently redirect your attention to how abundance feels. If you desire love but catch yourself feeling lonely, shift into the feeling of being cherished. Remember, your feeling state in each moment is creating your future experience. You are always feeling something, and whatever you are feeling is what you are creating. The question is, are you feeling it deliberately or accidentally? I want to share one final story that illustrates the transformative power of sustained feeling. A young man came to me who had been unemployed for over a year. He had applied for countless jobs and faced rejection after rejection. His confidence was shattered, and he was beginning to believe he was unemployable. I taught him to stop feeling like someone who couldn't find work and start feeling like someone who was valued and needed. Every morning he would spend time feeling what it was like to wake up excited about his meaningful work. He would experience the satisfaction of using his talents effectively, the gratitude of earning good income, the joy of being appreciated by colleagues. But let me tell you exactly how I guided him through this process, because the method is everything. Sit comfortably. I instructed him, and close your eyes. I want you to feel, not visualize, but feel what it's like to wake up on a Monday morning excited about your work. Feel that sense of purpose rising in your chest. Feel the confidence in your stride as you prepare for a day of meaningful contribution. I continued guiding him. Now feel what it's like to use your natural talents in a role that appreciates them. Feel the satisfaction in your solar plexus when you complete a task skillfully. Feel the warm recognition from colleagues who value your unique abilities. Feel the security and gratitude that comes with earning good income for work you genuinely enjoy. But this feels like I'm lying to myself, he protested. You're not lying, I explained. You're feeling the truth of what you are in consciousness before it manifests in form. Your subconscious mind will accept these feelings as real experiences and begin creating circumstances that match them. I taught him to practice this daily. Each morning, spend 10 minutes feeling employed before you look at job listings. Feel the calm confidence of someone whose talents are recognized and needed. Feel the peace of someone who contributes value and receives value in return. Make these feelings so real that your body chemistry changes to match the emotional state of successful employment. Focus especially on the feeling in your chest, that warm sense of belonging and contribution. Feel it in your shoulders, the relaxed posture of someone who knows their worth. Feel it in your voice, the natural authority of someone who has something valuable to offer. Within 3 weeks, he was called for an interview for a position he hadn't even applied for. Someone had recommended him. Within 6 weeks, he was employed in a role that was better than anything he had previously imagined for himself. The key was that he had stopped feeling unemployed and started feeling employed. His subconscious mind, accepting this new feeling as reality, began to create circumstances that matched his internal state. This is the power and the promise of feeling it real. When you consistently feel the reality of your desire fulfilled, that feeling must manifest as objective experience. It is not a matter of if, but when. The subconscious mind has no choice but to express outwardly what is consistently impressed upon it inwardly. So tonight I invite you to choose one desire that is close to your heart. Before you sleep, enter into the feeling of that desire fulfilled. Not the hope of its fulfillment, not excitement about its possibility, but the actual feeling of its reality. Feel it as completely as you would feel it if it had already happened. Let your body respond to the reality of this feeling. Allow yourself to experience the natural emotions that would accompany the realization of this desire. Make this feeling so real, so vivid, so convincing that your subconscious mind accepts it as an actual experience. Then trust that this feeling will be faithfully reproduced in your external world. Feel it real, my friends. Feel it real, and watch as your inner world of feeling becomes your outer world of fact. As always, thank you for joining me on this journey into the depths of consciousness. Remember, you are not here by accident. You are here because your soul is ready for this truth. Take these teachings and let them transform not just your mind, but your entire reality. Until we meet again in consciousness, keep assuming your greatness and living from the end of your desires. This is Best of Lectures. I will see you in the next video.
Money is not merely a physical object or a transactional tool, but a reflection of your inner state of being. Everything in your external world mirrors the relationship you have with yourself. Yes, with yourself. You are not chasing paper or numbers, but your own sense of worthiness, safety, and alignment. Money flows or withholds itself in accordance with your subconscious feelings of deservingness, which are shaped by how deeply you love and approve of yourself. When you hold contradictory beliefs, such as desiring wealth while secretly believing you are unworthy of abundance, money responds not to your conscious desire, but to the vibrational tone of your dominant inner state. You may tell yourself you want financial freedom, but if underneath you harbor guilt, shame, or resentment towards yourself, money will reflect that confusion by remaining inconsistent or absent. You cannot receive fully what you are not prepared to embrace from within. The energy of money, like all energy, is drawn to harmony, clarity, and love. When you begin to detach from the belief that your value is measured by what you have or do not have, you step into the freedom of becoming a conscious creator rather than a desperate seeker. Money begins to appear more frequently when you dissolve the illusion that it is external to your being. You stop measuring your worth through your bank account and start realizing that your internal sense of peace, confidence, and love for yourself is the true currency. As you practice assuming the feeling of already being abundant, already being worthy, already being supported by life, money begins to take notice, not because it judges, but because energy always aligns with its own likeness. You no longer fear lack, because you understand lack is not a punishment, but a mirror showing you where you've forgotten your power. When you return to the feeling of certainty within, money returns to you naturally, because it no longer needs to teach you through absence. You might think money is teaching you about wealth, but in truth, money is teaching you about love. The love you hold, the love you withhold, and the love you have yet to remember belongs to you unconditionally. You become magnetic to the flow of money, not when you chase it or manipulate your circumstances, but when you fall in love with your own being, when you soften into the knowing that your worth is not up for negotiation. Money comes to you as a response to your inner dialogue, and when your dialogue is loving, confident, and self-affirming, money has no resistance. The energy of money responds to the frequency of wholeness, and the more whole you feel within, the more it circulates around you with ease. When you assume that you are already supported, you send a message into the energetic field that you are safe, capable, and ready. You no longer beg or plead or wait for external proof. You move with the feeling of being held by the unseen currents of life. Money doesn't rescue you. It reflects your own rescue of self from limitation and self-abandonment. When you love yourself enough to believe you are already chosen, already worthy, already aligned, you unlock a level of ease that transcends hustle and effort. You begin to feel relaxed in your body, expansive in your mind, and generous in your spirit because you trust that life reflects your belief. Not your doubt, not your fear, but your unwavering assumption of fulfillment. The more love you feel for yourself, the more money becomes a cooperative energy, eager to match your new internal rhythm. You may have believed that suffering was noble, that self-sacrifice was virtuous, that guilt was necessary, but these are the very frequencies that keep you in a state of emotional debt. You cannot attract wealth while believing you must earn your right to receive. When you break free from the belief that you need to prove yourself to be valuable, money can finally begin to reach you through paths you had long forgotten were possible. You stop resisting the flow and begin allowing, not from passivity, but from empowered surrender. Self-love is not a luxury. It is the foundation of all attraction. The moment you shift from trying to get money to realizing you are the vibration of wealth itself, the universe reorganizes in your favor. You stop asking for permission to receive, and instead assume the posture of one who is already held by infinite supply. You become less attached to outcomes because you know that all outcomes originate from your inner certainty. You release desperation, which is rooted in self-doubt, and you embody confidence, which is rooted in self-love. This change is not always loud, but it is always magnetic. Your external reality becomes softer, more cooperative, more harmonious, because you have returned to internal harmony. You no longer make money your source, but your mirror, and mirrors never lie. They reflect what you believe to be true about yourself. When you assume the feeling of already being fulfilled, you stop needing money to fill the void. And ironically, money flows more freely because it is no longer burdened with the task of proving your value. You love yourself enough to know that you are already whole. And from that wholeness, money becomes a joyful companion, not a savior. You move differently, speak differently, and show up to life with a quiet confidence that whispers to the universe, "I remember who I am." And the universe responds, not because it grants you a wish, but because it reflects your inner knowing without resistance or delay. Each time you choose to believe in your sufficiency, money aligns with that belief because it is a neutral responder to your energetic stance. Money is not teaching you how to become more valuable. It is showing you where you've forgotten that you already are. It challenges your self-perception not to punish, but to elevate. When you finally love yourself enough to no longer abandon your own needs, your own vision, your own joy, money responds as a faithful echo. You stop waiting for signs and become the sign. You stop seeking validation and become the source of it. And from this place, you find yourself not only attracting money, but holding it with grace, circulating it with love, and multiplying it with ease. Because now you are aligned, not just with money, but with your truest self. You can no longer be manipulated by fear when you remember that you are not chasing abundance. You are returning to it. The illusion of lack was never real. It was only the absence of self-recognition. When you love yourself, you recognize that what you desire is simply an extension of your own being. Money is not a prize at the end of the journey. It is a companion on the path of remembering. When you walk in the energy of already being enough, already being chosen, already being rich in spirit, money doesn't have to fix anything. It simply reflects everything. You see that love and money are the same frequency: receptivity, openness, alignment. And when you are open to love, you are open to wealth because they are one. Every time you catch yourself believing that money is the cause of your happiness or the answer to your struggles, you remind yourself that it is merely a symbol of the inner harmony or discord you carry. You release the illusion of separation and come home to the truth that you are the creator, not the victim of your financial reality. And with this realization, you step into the power to change it, not by force, but by love. As you live from the feeling of already having, already being, already knowing, your relationship with money transforms from one of dependence to one of collaboration. You are no longer begging the world to see your worth. You are standing in it. Money follows the feeling of certainty, and certainty is the natural outcome of love. When you love yourself, you no longer fear the unknown because you know who you are in the midst of it. You walk with calm expectancy, not because life owes you anything, but because you know that life cannot deny what you already claim as true within. You don't chase, you attract. And your attraction is rooted not in strategy, but in identity. When you begin to embody the version of yourself who no longer negotiates their worth based on temporary conditions, you become the anchor for lasting abundance. You do not need to convince money to stay because you are no longer vibrating from the fear of loss or rejection. You recognize that love, not control, is the gateway through which wealth enters and remains. And when you treat yourself with kindness, with inner reverence, with the dignity of someone who truly belongs, money becomes an extension of that belonging. It shows up not to prove anything, but to reflect what is already settled within you. This is not about pretending, but about persisting in a state of inner knowing, even when the outer hasn't caught up, because you know now that the outer always bows to the inner. You are not asking the world to bring you proof. You are being the proof, living from the felt sense of completion. The more deeply you commit to the belief that you are inherently supported, the more you will see life rearranged to support you. This commitment is not made in the mind alone. It is felt in your body, in your emotions, in the spaces where you used to carry tension and now carry peace. Money doesn't come to the version of you who is waiting to feel safe. It comes to the version of you who feels safe now, not because of the digits in your account, but because of the love in your heart. When you stop seeking money as the permission slip to love yourself and start loving yourself as the origin point of wealth, you no longer hold your power hostage to external results. You become steady in your vibration, no longer reactive to delays because you understand the truth. Nothing is being withheld. What appears as delay is only the time it takes for your new state to stabilize and materialize. You trust the process because you trust yourself. You start to see how every past struggle with money was really a lesson in self-worth disguised as financial limitation. Each no you experienced was asking you to say yes to yourself more fully. Each time you feared running out, the invitation was to remember the infinite supply within you. And now you see that you were never blocked. You were becoming conscious. The blocks were beliefs, and you hold the power to dissolve them by loving the parts of you that once felt unworthy of release. You don't need to fix or force or figure everything out. You need only return to the truth that you are whole right now. And in that wholeness, you allow the natural flow of abundance to resume. There is no effort in being who you already are, only willingness to remember it. The more you rest in your true identity, the more money flows without resistance because it is no longer being asked to solve your identity crisis. You are no longer dependent on outcomes to feel good. And in this detachment, paradoxically, outcomes shift in your favor. You stop performing and start aligning. You stop proving and start allowing. And in this space of relaxed power, you become undeniably magnetic, not because you are doing more, but because you are being more of who you truly are. Money flows, not because you chase it, but because you've stopped running from yourself. And in the end, you realize that loving yourself was never separate from receiving. It was always the foundation of it. And that's it for the day. Thank you for watching. Please feel free to share your thoughts and insights in the comment section. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done it already. Have an amazing day, and I'll see you in the next video.
Well, self with positivity and hope.
I am deserving of moments of pure joy and laughter. My vulnerability is a sign. What if I told you that the voice inside your head right now, the one that's literally commenting on these words as you hear them, isn't actually you? I know. You're probably thinking, that's ridiculous. Of course it's me thinking these thoughts. But here's the thing that's going to blow your mind. You didn't choose to have that reaction. You didn't consciously decide to think that's ridiculous. It just happened. Stay with me for the next few minutes, because what you're about to discover will completely revolutionize how you see your mind, your thoughts, and most importantly, who you really are. By the end of this, you'll never listen to that inner voice the same way again. Right now, as I'm speaking, there's a constant stream of commentary running through your mind. Maybe it's judging what I'm saying. Maybe it's thinking about what you need to do later, or maybe it's even trying to figure out where this is all going. But here's the million-dollar question. Who is doing the thinking and who is listening to those thoughts? Think about it. When you have a thought, there's the thought itself, and then there's the part of you that's aware of having that thought. If you were truly the thinker, why would you need to listen to your own thoughts? It's like having a conversation with yourself. But who's talking and who's listening? This is where it gets fascinating. Every single day, from the moment you wake up until you fall asleep, you're tuned into this internal radio station that never stops broadcasting. What should I wear today? Did I remember to lock the door? Why did I say that embarrassing thing 5 years ago? What if everyone thinks I'm stupid? I should really exercise more. Why can't I stick to anything? Sound familiar? But here's what's going to shock you. You're not the DJ of this radio station. You're just the listener. The fact that you can't control when thoughts start or stop is the first clue that you're not actually creating them. You're receiving them, like tuning into a radio frequency that's always transmitting. Now, let's dive deeper into what's actually happening inside your skull. Your brain is essentially a 3-pound biological supercomputer, processing about 60,000 thoughts per day. That's roughly one thought every 1.4 seconds during your waking hours. But here's the kicker. Studies show that 95% of these thoughts are the same ones you had yesterday, and the day before, and the day before that. Think about that for a moment. You're essentially watching the same mental movie on repeat, day after day, year after year. No wonder life can feel so predictable and stuck sometimes. Your brain is literally running the same programs over and over again, like a computer that never gets updated. Your subconscious mind is like a massive library that never forgets anything. Every experience you've ever had, every word you've ever heard, every emotion you've ever felt, it's all stored in there. And this library has a very particular job: keep you alive at all costs. And here's where it gets fascinating. Your brain doesn't distinguish between a real threat and an imagined one. When you're lying in bed at 2 a.m., worrying about a presentation next week, your nervous system responds as if you're being chased by a predator right now. Your heart rate increases, stress hormones flood your system, and your body prepares for fight or flight. All because of thoughts about something that hasn't even happened yet and might never happen. This is why your inner voice is often so negative. It's not trying to make you miserable. It's trying to protect you by constantly scanning for threats, problems, and potential dangers. Back when we were living in caves, this was incredibly useful. Don't go near that rustling bush. It might be a saber-toothed tiger. But in today's world, this same system treats a job interview with the same level of threat as that ancient predator. The result? You're walking around in a constant state of low-level stress and anxiety. All because your brain is using Stone Age software to navigate a space-age world. Your thoughts are creating a reality that doesn't actually exist, but your body and emotions respond as if it's completely real. But wait, it gets even more interesting. Many of the thoughts you think are yours aren't even originally yours at all. They're hand-me-downs from your parents, your culture, your society, and your past experiences. Think about your beliefs around success. Did you consciously choose to believe that success means working 60 hours a week, Or did that belief get programmed into you by watching your parents, your teachers, the media? What about your thoughts on relationships, money, or even what it means to be happy? Here's a mind-bending example. If you were born in ancient Greece, your thoughts about the nature of reality would be completely different from someone born in medieval Europe, who would think differently from someone born in modern-day Japan. The voice in your head is speaking in the language of your cultural programming, not your authentic truth. Your subconscious mind is like a sponge that soaked up all these external messages, and now it's playing them back to you as if they're your own original thoughts. You've been living your life according to a script that someone else wrote, thinking it was your own voice the entire time. But here's where it gets really wild. Scientists have discovered that we can actually inherit trauma and behavioral patterns from our ancestors through something called epigenetic inheritance. This means some of the fears and anxieties you experience might not even be from your own life experiences. They could be emotional echoes from your great-great-grandmother's struggles that are still reverberating through your DNA. So when that voice tells you you're not safe, or you can't trust people, or money is the root of all evil, ask yourself, is this really my belief, or am I just playing back someone else's old programming? How much of what you think you believe is actually just inherited mental software that was never designed for your unique life and circumstances? Here's where things get really wild. The reason we're so attached to this inner voice is because we think it defines who we are. When the voice says, "I'm not good enough," we don't hear it as just a random thought. We hear it as a fundamental truth about our identity. But let me ask you this. If you are your thoughts, then who's the one observing those thoughts? When you notice that you're thinking, who's doing the noticing? There's clearly a part of you that's separate from the thinking process, the part that can step back and watch your mind at work. This observer, this awareness that can witness thoughts without being consumed by them. That's closer to who you really are than any thought could ever be. Here's a fascinating exercise. Try to think about the last time you were completely absorbed in an activity. Maybe playing music, painting, having an amazing conversation, or even just petting a dog. In those moments, where was the voice? It was quiet, wasn't it? But did you disappear? Of course not. You were more present and alive than ever. This reveals something profound. Your truest self emerges not when the voice is loudest, but when it's quietest. The real you isn't found in the constant mental commentary. It's found in the aware presence that exists, whether thoughts are present or not. But society has convinced us that we need to constantly think to exist. I think, therefore I am, as Descartes famously said. But what if it's actually the opposite? What if it's I am, therefore I can think? What if thinking is just one of many tools available to consciousness rather than consciousness itself? Consider this. You are aware of your thoughts, which means you must be something more than your thoughts. You are aware of your emotions, which means you're more than your emotions. You are aware of your body, which means you're more than your body. So what is this you that's aware of all these things? That's the real question that will change everything. Let me tell you a story that will illustrate just how much this inner voice controls your life. Imagine you have a brilliant idea for a business, a creative project, or maybe just asking someone out on a date. You get excited for about 2.3 seconds, and then the voice kicks in. That's a terrible idea. You don't have enough experience. What if you fail? People will laugh at you. You're not smart enough for this. Remember last time you tried something like this? You should just stick to what you know. And just like that, your brilliant idea dies before it even has a chance to breathe. How many dreams have you abandoned because of this voice? How many opportunities have you missed? How many times have you played it safe? Because the voice convinced you that you weren't ready, weren't good enough, or weren't worthy. The tragic irony is that by trying to protect you, this voice is actually limiting you. It's keeping you trapped in a comfort zone that's comfortable for your past self, not your potential future self. Now here's something that might sound counterintuitive. We're actually addicted to this inner drama. Even when the voice is making us miserable, we keep listening because it gives us a sense of identity and purpose. Think about it. When everything in your life is going well, what does your mind do? It gets bored and starts creating problems to solve. Things are going too well. Something bad must be about to happen. I should worry about this and this and this. We've become addicted to the familiar chaos of our own thoughts, because silence feels unfamiliar and even scary. Who would you be without your worries, your stories, your mental drama? The voice has convinced you that without it, you'd cease to exist. But here's the beautiful truth. The real you exists in the space between thoughts. Have you ever had a moment of complete peace? Maybe in nature, or during a perfect sunset, or in the arms of someone you love, where your mind went completely quiet. In those moments, did you disappear? Of course not. You were more present, more alive, more yourself than ever. There's actually a neurological reason for this addiction. Every time you engage with a dramatic thought, your brain releases small amounts of stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. Over time, your nervous system becomes dependent on these chemical hits. Just like any other addiction, you literally become addicted to your own stress. This is why meditation can feel so uncomfortable at first. You're going through withdrawal from your own mental drama. Your brain is like a cocaine addict being asked to sit quietly without their drug of choice. It will create increasingly dramatic thoughts to try to pull you back into the familiar chaos. But here's the incredible part. Just like recovering from any addiction, once you break free from this pattern, you discover a natural high that's far superior to anything the drama could provide. The peace, clarity, and joy that emerge from a quiet mind are infinitely more satisfying than the temporary rush of mental stimulation. Most people are so addicted to thinking that they've forgotten what it feels like to simply be. They've confused the noise in their head with life itself, when in reality, life is what happens in the spaces between the noise. Ready for the biggest plot twist of your life? You've been eavesdropping on a conversation that was never meant for you. The voice in your head is like background processing software running on your brain's operating system. It's not your CEO making executive decisions. It's more like your spam filter, sorting through millions of bits of information and creating a running commentary based on outdated programming. Imagine if you walked by someone else's house and heard them talking inside, and you stood there for hours listening to their conversation and getting emotionally invested in their drama. That would be weird, right? But that's essentially what you're doing with your own thoughts. The voice is just your brain doing its job, processing, categorizing, and commenting on everything. But somewhere along the way, you started believing that this background chatter was the real you. Let's do another quick experiment. Right now, notice that you're breathing. Feel the air going in and out of your lungs. Now notice that you're sitting or standing somewhere. Feel the surface beneath you. Now notice that you're having thoughts about this experiment. What just happened? There was the breathing, the sitting, the thinking, and then there was you, noticing all of it. The you that notices is fundamentally different from the things being noticed. Your thoughts, emotions, and sensations are like clouds passing through the sky of your awareness. The clouds change constantly, but the sky remains unchanged. This awareness, this witness consciousness, doesn't have opinions about what it observes. It doesn't judge, criticize, or create stories. It simply sees what is. And this awareness is available to you 24/7. But most of the time, you're too busy listening to the voice to notice it. And here's what's absolutely mind-blowing about this. This awareness has been with you your entire life, completely unchanged. The thoughts of a 5-year-old you are completely different from your thoughts now. But the awareness that witnessed those childhood thoughts is exactly the same awareness that's witnessing your thoughts right now. Your body has changed. Your personality has evolved. Your beliefs have shifted. Your circumstances have transformed. But the pure awareness that observes all of this has remained constant and untouched. It's like a movie screen that shows thousands of different films but never becomes any of them. Think about your memories. When you remember being 7 years old, who's doing the remembering? It's the same consciousness that was there when you were 7, still here now, observing the memory. This awareness is literally timeless. It exists outside of the story of your life, while simultaneously being the witness to every moment of it. This is why spiritual traditions throughout history have pointed to this awareness as your true nature. It's not just a part of you, it is you. Everything else, thoughts, emotions, personality, even your body, are temporary experiences arising within this eternal awareness. Most people live their entire lives without ever recognizing this aware presence that they truly are. They get so caught up in the content of consciousness, the thoughts, emotions, and sensations, that they never notice consciousness itself. It's like being so fascinated by the movies on a screen that you never notice the screen itself. But here's where everything changes. The moment you realize you're not your thoughts, you gain the power to choose which ones to believe. It's like discovering you have a remote control for your mind that you never knew existed. When the voice says, "I'm a failure," instead of automatically believing it, you can respond with curiosity. Interesting. My brain just generated a thought about failure. I wonder why it did that. Is there any truth to this? Is this thought helpful right now? This simple shift from being the victim of your thoughts to being the observer of them is like stepping off a runaway train. Suddenly, you're not being dragged along by every random thought that pops up. You have space to breathe, to choose, to respond instead of react. So how do you actually break free from this mental prison? The beautiful thing is, you don't need to fight the voice or try to silence it completely. That's like trying to stop the ocean from making waves. Instead, you learn to swim. First, practice catching yourself in the act of believing your thoughts. Throughout the day, notice when you're getting caught up in mental stories. Maybe you're reliving an argument, rehearsing a future conversation, or beating yourself up about something. The moment you notice this, congratulate yourself. Awareness is the first step to freedom. Second, create space between you and your thoughts. Instead of thinking, "I'm anxious," try, "I'm having anxious thoughts." Instead of "I'm a failure," try, "I'm having thoughts about failure." This simple language shift creates psychological distance between you and the mental chatter. Third, practice the art of mental channel surfing. When you notice you're tuned into the worry channel, the self-criticism channel, or the past regret channel, imagine picking up a remote control and changing the station. What would it feel like to tune into gratitude, curiosity, or possibility instead? And here's the most beautiful part of this whole journey. Once you stop being controlled by the voice, you can actually start using it as a tool. Remember, your thinking mind is incredibly powerful. It's just been running on autopilot with outdated programming. When you're no longer at the mercy of random thoughts, you can actually direct your mental energy toward what matters. You can consciously choose to think about solutions instead of problems, possibilities instead of limitations, growth instead of fear. The voice doesn't disappear. It becomes your servant instead of your master. It's like the difference between being dragged by a wild horse and riding that same horse with skill and intention. Once you master this skill, everything in your life begins to change. Your relationships improve because you're not constantly reacting to the stories in your head about what other people think or mean. Your creativity explodes because you're not shutting down ideas before they have a chance to develop. Your confidence grows because you're no longer believing every self-critical thought that arises. You start making decisions based on your values and intuition rather than your fears and conditioning. You become more present because you're not constantly lost in mental time travel to the past or future. You finally start living your life instead of the life your thoughts told you that you should live. But the changes go even deeper than that. When you stop identifying with your thoughts, you begin to see other people differently too. You realize that they're not their thoughts either. They're just caught up in their own mental programming, just like you used to be. This naturally leads to more compassion and understanding. Instead of getting offended when someone is rude to you, you can see that they're probably just having a bad day and their thoughts are running wild. Instead of taking things personally, you recognize that most of what people do has nothing to do with you and everything to do with what's happening in their own minds. Your physical health often improves too. When you're not constantly stressed by your thoughts, your nervous system can finally relax. Chronic tension melts away, sleep improves, digestion gets better, and your immune system strengthens. It turns out that most of our physical problems are directly related to the stress caused by believing our own thoughts. Even your perception of time changes. When you're lost in thought, hours can pass without you really experiencing them. But when you're present and aware, each moment becomes rich and full. 5 minutes of true presence can feel more satisfying than hours of mental distraction. People will start to notice something different about you. You'll have a quality of presence and peace that's magnetic. Others will be drawn to your calmness and clarity, even if they can't quite put their finger on what's changed. You become like a lighthouse in a storm, a beacon of stability in a world of mental chaos. Your work performance improves because you're not wasting mental energy on worry and self-doubt. Your creative projects flow more easily because you're not constantly second-guessing yourself. Your decision-making becomes clearer because you're not paralyzed by overthinking. Most importantly, you stop living in a constant state of wanting things to be different. The voice in your head is always telling you that happiness is just around the corner. If only you had more money, lost weight, found the right relationship, got the promotion. But when you recognize your true nature as awareness itself, you discover that contentment and peace are your natural state, available right now, regardless of circumstances. This transformation doesn't happen overnight, but it can start right now. Here's your daily practice. Spend just 5 minutes a day sitting quietly and watching your thoughts like you're watching clouds in the sky. Don't judge them. Don't try to change them. Just observe them. Notice how thoughts arise out of nowhere, exist for a moment, and then disappear. Notice how some thoughts try to hook your attention and drag you into stories. Notice how you can choose to follow them or simply let them pass by. Some days your mind will be like a clear blue sky with just a few wispy clouds. Other days it will be like a thunderstorm with dark clouds and lightning. Both are perfectly fine. Your job isn't to control the weather. It's to remember that you are the sky, not the clouds. But let's get more specific about this practice, because the details matter. Find a comfortable position where you won't be disturbed. Close your eyes or soften your gaze. Take 3 deep breaths to settle in. Then simply observe whatever arises in your awareness. Maybe you'll notice physical sensations, the feeling of your body against the chair, sounds in the environment, the temperature of the air. Maybe you'll notice emotions, perhaps some anxiety about doing this right, or boredom, or curiosity. Maybe you'll notice thoughts, plans for the day, judgments about the practice, random memories. Whatever arises, just notice it. You don't need to do anything with it. You're like a scientist observing phenomena in a laboratory. You're not trying to change what you observe. You're just collecting data about how your mind works. The key insight you'll begin to develop is this. You are not any of these experiences. You are the awareness in which they all appear. The sensations, emotions, and thoughts are like waves on the ocean of your consciousness. The waves come and go, but the ocean remains. At first, you might find it nearly impossible to maintain this observer perspective. The moment a thought arises, you'll get swept away by it. One moment you're watching your breath, the next you're planning your grocery list or reliving a conversation from yesterday. This is completely normal and expected. The practice isn't about never getting distracted. It's about noticing when you've been distracted and gently returning to observation. Each time you notice that you've been caught up in thought and return to awareness, you're strengthening your capacity to disidentify from the voice in your head. Think of it like going to the gym for your awareness. At first, you can only lift light weights for a few repetitions, but with consistent practice, you get stronger. Eventually, you'll be able to maintain the observer perspective for longer periods, and it will become easier to access throughout your daily life. Beyond the formal sitting practice, You can incorporate this awareness into everyday activities. While brushing your teeth, notice the sensations, sounds, and thoughts that arise. While walking, observe the movement of your body, the sights and sounds around you, and the mental commentary that appears. The goal is to develop what some traditions call continuous awareness, a constant recognition that you are the witness of all experience, not the victim of it. Now, what if I told you that everything you've been searching for, peace, happiness, confidence, love, isn't something you need to acquire or achieve? What if it's something you already are, underneath all the mental noise? When you stop identifying with the voice in your head, you discover that your natural state is actually one of peace and contentment. All the seeking, striving, and suffering comes from believing the stories your mind tells you about what you need to be happy. Think about young children. They can be completely absorbed in play, totally present and joyful, until an adult teaches them to worry about the future or regret the past. That natural state of presence and wonder is still there inside you, waiting to be rediscovered. And here's a deeper truth that might sound mystical, but is actually very practical. Consciousness is not produced by your brain. Your brain is an instrument of consciousness. Your awareness doesn't depend on your thoughts any more than the sky depends on the clouds that pass through it. This means that who you really are, this aware presence that can observe thoughts, emotions, and sensations, is much more vast and powerful than you've been taught to believe. You're not a biological robot running on automatic programming. Your conscious awareness having a human experience. Modern neuroscience is beginning to support what mystics have known for thousands of years. Consciousness appears to be fundamental to the universe, not just an emergent property of complex brains. Some cutting-edge scientists are proposing that awareness is like space itself, the field in which all experiences arise. Think about it this way. When you dream at night, your brain creates an entire world complete with people, places, conversations, and emotions. In the dream, you believe it's all real. But when you wake up, you realize it was all taking place in consciousness. What if waking life is similar? Not in the sense that it's not real, but in the sense that it's all appearing within the field of your awareness. This perspective completely revolutionizes how you see yourself and your problems. If you are the awareness in which all experiences arise, then no experience, no matter how difficult, can ultimately harm who you truly are. Pain arises in awareness, but awareness itself is never painful. Fear appears in consciousness, but consciousness itself is never afraid. This doesn't mean you become indifferent to life or stop caring about outcomes. Instead, you develop what could be called engaged detachment. You care deeply and act wisely, but you're not devastated when things don't go according to plan, because you know that your essential nature is untouched by any temporary experience. You begin to see that all human suffering comes from the mistaken belief that we are the temporary experiences arising in consciousness rather than consciousness itself. It's like a wave forgetting that it's made of water and thinking it's separate from the ocean. When you recognize your true nature as awareness, you discover something remarkable. This awareness is not personal to you. The same consciousness that's listening these words right now is the same consciousness looking out through every pair of eyes on the planet. We're all expressions of the same fundamental awareness, experiencing itself through billions of different perspectives. This realization naturally leads to profound compassion and love. How could you hate someone else when you recognize that they're made of the same consciousness that you are? How could you feel fundamentally separate when you see that separation is just an illusion created by identifying with thoughts and personalities rather than the awareness that underlies them all? So here we are, at the end of our journey together. But really, this is just the beginning of yours. You now know the secret that most people never discover. You are not your thoughts. You are the awareness that observes them. The question is, what are you going to do with this knowledge? Will you go back to being the passive victim of your mental chatter, or will you step into your power as the conscious director of your inner experience? Every moment offers you this choice. Every time you catch yourself believing a limiting thought, You have an opportunity to remember who you really are. Every time you feel overwhelmed by mental noise, you can return to the stillness that's always available beneath the surface. The voice in your head will probably try to convince you that this is all nonsense, that you can't change, that you've tried things like this before and they don't work. Notice that? That's just the voice doing what it does, trying to maintain control by keeping you stuck in familiar patterns. But you now have a choice. You can listen to that voice, or you can listen to something deeper, the quiet wisdom of your own awareness that knows this is true and knows you're ready for this transformation. Your thoughts are just weather patterns in the sky of your consciousness. You are the sky, vast, unchanging, and eternally free. The storm clouds of worry, the fog of confusion, the lightning of anger, they all pass through you, but they are not you. So the next time you hear that voice in your head trying to tell you who you are or what you can't do, just smile and remember, that's not you talking. That's just the old programming running its familiar loops. And now you have the power to simply observe it, acknowledge it, and choose something better. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, and recognizing that you are not your thoughts is the most important step you'll ever take. And everything else flows from this one profound realization.
Good evening, my friends. Tonight I'm going to tell you something that will fundamentally shatter everything you thought you knew about reality. Nothing you see is real, not in the way you think it is. The world around you, the solid ground beneath your feet, the walls of this room, the body you're sitting in, the circumstances you're experiencing, none of it is solid, none of it is fixed, none of it is real in the way you've been taught to believe. It's a hologram, a projection, an image cast from consciousness onto the screen of your awareness. And you are not in the hologram, you are the projector. Now I know how this sounds. I know your rational mind is already objecting, but wait. I can touch the walls. I can feel my body. I can see the world with my own eyes. How can you say it's not real? And that's exactly what I want to address tonight. Because understanding this, truly grasping what I'm about to share, will free you from every limitation you've ever accepted as truth. When you understand that reality is a hologram projected from consciousness, you'll finally realize why changing your inner world changes your outer world. Why assumptions become facts. Why imagination creates reality. Because the outer world doesn't exist independently of you. It's not solid. It's not fixed. It's not happening to you. It's happening from you. And tonight you're going to understand exactly what that means and why it changes everything. Let me start by explaining what I mean when I say reality is a hologram. A hologram is a three-dimensional image projected from a two-dimensional source. It appears solid, real, tangible, but it's not. It's light arranged in patterns that create the illusion of form. You can't grab it. You can't hold it. You can only observe it. And the moment the projection stops, the image disappears. Completely. Because it was never really there in the first place. This is exactly how your reality works. The three-dimensional world you experience, the circumstances, the people, the events, the physical manifestations, these are all projections, images, patterns of energy organized by consciousness into forms that appear solid. But they're not solid. They're not independent. They're not separate from you. They're consciousness made visible. Your consciousness, arranged into the patterns that match your dominant assumptions, beliefs, and states. And just like a hologram changes instantly when you change the pattern being projected, your reality changes when you change your consciousness. Not eventually. Not after hard work. Not after you've proven yourself worthy. Instantly. Automatically. Inevitably. Because the hologram must reflect the projector. It has no choice. It's not real in itself. It's only a reflection of what's real, consciousness. Now, let me make this even clearer with an analogy. Imagine you're sitting in a movie theater. On the screen in front of you, you see images, a story unfolding, characters moving, events happening. And these images appear so real, so vivid, that you forget, for a moment, that they're just light projected onto a flat surface. You get absorbed in the story. You react to what's happening. You feel emotions based on what you're watching. But here's the question, are the images on the screen real? No. They're projections, reflections of a film running through a projector behind you. And if you don't like what you're seeing on the screen, if the movie isn't to your liking, what do? Do you run up to the screen and try to rearrange the images? Do you push the characters around? Do you attempt to change the events by manipulating the projection itself? Of course not. That would be absurd, because the screen is just showing you what's being projected. It's not the source, it's the effect. If you want to change what you're seeing on the screen, you must change the film and the projector. You must go to the source, the cause, the place where the images are actually being created. This is exactly how reality works. The three-dimensional world you're experiencing is the screen. Your consciousness is the projector. Your assumptions, beliefs, and dominant states are the film. And if you don't like what you're seeing in your reality, if your circumstances aren't to your liking, you can't change them by manipulating the screen. You can't rearrange the hologram by pushing against it. You can't fix the projection by trying to alter what's already been projected. You must go to the source. You must change the film. You must change your consciousness. And the moment you do, the instant you change what's being projected, the screen must change to match. Not because you forced it, not because you worked at it, but because that's the nature of projection. The hologram always automatically perfectly reflects the projector. Now let me show you what most people spend their entire lives doing, and why it never works. They look at their reality and they see things they don't like. Lack, limitation, problems, circumstances that feel wrong. And what do? They try to change the screen. They work harder at their job, hoping to change their financial reality. They manipulate situations, trying to force better outcomes. They attempt to control people, circumstances, events. They're running up to the screen, trying to rearrange the images. And it's exhausting, because the screen isn't the source. The projection isn't the cause. No matter how hard you push against the hologram, it will keep reflecting whatever is being projected from consciousness. You might create temporary changes through sheer force of effort. You might move a few things around on the screen. But the moment you stop pushing, the images return to match the projection. Because you never changed what was being projected, you only temporarily disrupted what was being displayed. This is why external action alone never creates lasting change. This is why willpower eventually fails. This is why you can't force manifestation, because you're trying to change the effect instead of the cause. You're manipulating the hologram instead of changing the consciousness that's projecting it. Let me tell you something that will sound impossible to your rational mind, but is absolutely true. Nothing in your external reality is solid. Nothing is fixed. Nothing is happening independently of your consciousness. The job you have, it's not a solid, unchangeable fact. It's a projection of your assumptions about work, money, and what's possible for you. The relationship you're in, it's not fixed in stone. It's a reflection of your assumptions about love, worthiness, and connection. Your bank account, it's not a hard reality that you must accept. It's a mirror showing you your consciousness of abundance or lack. Your body, even this isn't as solid as you think. It's constantly responding to, reorganizing around, reflecting your dominant assumptions about health, age, and vitality. Do you see what I'm telling you? Nothing is real in the way you've been taught to believe. Everything you're experiencing is malleable, fluid, responsive to consciousness. Because it's not solid matter existing independently. It's consciousness arranged into temporary patterns that appear solid. And the moment your consciousness shifts, the moment you change what you're projecting, those patterns must reorganize. The hologram must change because the projector changed. Now, when you truly grasp this, when it clicks so deeply that you can't unknow it, something profound happens. You stop being intimidated by circumstances. You stop being controlled by what you see. You stop accepting current reality as the final word on what's possible, because you understand this is just a hologram, and I am the projector, the debt you're experiencing. It's not a solid fact you must accept. It's a hologram projected from consciousness of lack. Change the consciousness, and the hologram must change. The debt you're experiencing, it's not a solid fact you must accept. It's a hologram projected from consciousness of lack. Change the consciousness, and the hologram must change. The loneliness you're feeling, it's not a permanent condition. It's a reflection of assumptions about connection and love. Shift the assumption, and the reflection shifts. The limitation you're facing, it's not an immovable obstacle. It's a pattern in the hologram matching your consciousness of limitation. Change what you're projecting, and the pattern dissolves. This is the freedom I'm offering you tonight. Freedom from the tyranny of facts. Freedom from the dictatorship of circumstances. Freedom from the prison of current reality. Because once you understand that nothing outside you is solid, that it's all a hologram responding to consciousness, you realize you have power you never knew you had. The power to change everything by changing one thing, what you're projecting from consciousness. Let me give you a specific example. A man came to me who was drowning in debt. Everywhere he looked, he saw evidence of lack. Bills piling up, collection calls, financial pressure mounting. And what was he doing? He was trying to change the screen, working extra hours, cutting expenses, desperately trying to earn his way out. But the debt kept growing because he was projecting poverty consciousness. And the hologram reality was perfectly reflecting that projection. I told him, stop trying to change what you're seeing. Change what you're projecting. How? He asked. Assume you're debt-free. Not hope you'll be debt-free. Not work toward being debt-free. Assume you already are debt-free. Feel it. Think from it. Occupy that state. But how if I'm not debt-free? I can see the bills. The debt is real. No, I said. The debt is a hologram, a projection, an image on the screen reflecting your consciousness of lack. And the moment you change what you're projecting, the moment you truly assume wealth instead of poverty, the hologram must change to match. He didn't believe me, not fully, but he was desperate enough to try. So he did something radical. He stopped acknowledging the debt as real, not by denying it existed on the screen. He could see it was there, but by refusing to accept it as the truth of his consciousness. Instead, he truly assumed that he was financially free. He felt it. He thought from it. He moved through his day as someone who had no financial worries. He changed what he was projecting, and within 3 months the hologram shifted. Unexpected money, opportunities he couldn't have predicted, circumstances arranging themselves in ways that dissolved the debt, not because he worked harder, not because he earned it, but because he changed what was being projected, and the hologram automatically reorganized to match. Here's what you must understand. Your reality is not random. It's not happening by chance. It's a perfect mirror, a precise hologram, an exact reflection of your consciousness. Everything you're experiencing right now, everything is showing you what you've been projecting, the abundance or lack in your life. That's your consciousness of prosperity reflected back, the love or loneliness. That's your assumptions about relationships made visible. The success or struggle, that's your beliefs about yourself projected onto the screen. And this isn't punishment. It's not good or bad. It's just law. The hologram reflects the projector. Reality mirrors consciousness. The screen shows you the film. Always. Automatically. Perfectly. This is actually empowering once you understand it, because it means nothing in your reality is there by accident. Everything is there because some part of your consciousness projected it. And if consciousness projected it, consciousness can change it. You're not a victim of reality. You're the creator of it. You're not at the mercy of circumstances. You're projecting them. You're not helpless. You're the projector itself. So here's what you do. Starting tonight, you stop reacting to the hologram as if it's real, solid, unchangeable. You stop giving power to circumstances as if they're the final word. You stop trying to fix the screen when you don't like what you see. Instead, you do this. You change what you're projecting. You assume your desire is fulfilled, not hope it will be. Not work toward it being. Assume it already is fulfilled in consciousness, and you project from that assumption. You think from wealth, not toward wealth. You feel from love, not toward love. You imagine from success, not toward success. You're changing the film in the projector. You're shifting what consciousness is broadcasting. And as you do this, as you persist in projecting from the wish fulfilled, something inevitable happens. The hologram begins to shift. The screen begins to change. Reality begins to reorganize. Not because you forced it, not because you manipulated the external, but because you changed what was being projected. And the projection must always match the projector. This is law. This is how it works. This is how it's always worked. Let me close with this final truth. Nothing is real except consciousness. Everything else, the entire three-dimensional world, all circumstances, all events, all manifestations, these are holograms, projections, temporary arrangements of consciousness into visible form. They appear solid. They feel real. But they're not. They're images on a screen, reflections in a mirror, shadows cast by the only thing that's actually real, consciousness. And you are consciousness, not the body you inhabit, not the circumstances you're experiencing, not the role you're playing in the hologram. You are the projector itself, the source, the cause, the creator. And when you finally understand this, when you stop identifying with the projection and start identifying with the projector, everything changes. You realize you've been trying to change images that have no power, no substance, no independent existence. You've been taking a hologram seriously, treating a projection as if it were the source. But now you know better. Now you understand that the hologram is not your reality. Consciousness is your reality. And the moment you change your consciousness, the instant you shift what you're projecting, the hologram must change. Not might change, not could change, must change. Because that's the nature of projection. That's the law of the hologram. The screen always reflects the projector. Reality always mirrors consciousness. The outer always matches the inner. This is not philosophy. This is mechanics. This is how your world actually works. So tonight when you go home, look at your circumstances, look at what you're experiencing. And instead of asking, how do I change this? Ask, what am I projecting? Instead of trying to fix the screen, change the film. Instead of manipulating the hologram, shift your consciousness. Because nothing is real except consciousness. Everything else is just a hologram. And you are the projector. Thank you, and good evening. This is Best of Lectures. I will see you in the next video. Good evening, my dear friends. Tonight I want to talk to you about something that will either liberate you completely or make you deeply uncomfortable. Perhaps both. Because what I'm about to tell you challenges everything you've been taught about yourself, about life, about how reality works. You have power, real power, creative power. The power to shape, mold, and transform your entire world. Not someday when you become more spiritual. Not when you're worthy enough. Not when the universe decides to grant it to you. Right now, this moment. You already have it. Most people spend their entire lives not knowing this. They walk around like beggars, pleading with life to give them what they want. Praying to external forces, hoping circumstances will change. Waiting for someone or something to save them. And all the while, the power they're seeking outside themselves has been within them the entire time. You are not powerless. You have never been powerless. You've only believed you were. And that belief, that single devastating belief that you lack power, is the only thing that has ever limited you. Tonight I'm going to show you the power you possess. Not theoretically, not philosophically. Practically, tangibly, undeniably. And once you realize your power, truly realize it, feel it, know it, your entire relationship with life will change. You'll stop begging and start commanding. You'll stop hoping and start knowing. You'll stop being a victim and start being a creator. From the moment you were born, You've had this power. It's not something you earned. It's not something you developed. It's not something that was given to you by a teacher or a guru or a god. It's what you are. Your power is your consciousness. Your awareness, your ability to assume, to imagine, to feel something as true. This doesn't sound impressive at first. Does it? My power is my imagination. That's it? But let me tell you what this power actually means. Every single thing you experience in your life, every circumstance, every relationship, every outcome, every condition exists because your consciousness created it. Not because life happened to you, not because you were lucky or unlucky, not because other people did things to you. Because your consciousness, your assumptions, your beliefs, your habitual feeling states created the conditions you're experiencing. This is not motivational speaking. This is not positive thinking. This is not philosophy. This is law. Consciousness is the only reality. Consciousness creates all circumstances. And if consciousness creates all circumstances, and you are consciousness, then you are the creator of every single thing you're experiencing. That means you have power. Real, actual, undeniable power. The power to change anything, create anything, transform anything, not by manipulating external circumstances, not by forcing or controlling or pushing, but by changing your consciousness, by shifting your assumptions, by occupying a different state. When you change your consciousness, your world must change. It has no choice. Because the world you experience is nothing but consciousness objectified. This is your power. And you've had it your entire life. So if you have this power, why don't you feel powerful? Why do you feel like circumstances control you? Why do you feel like other people have power over you? Why do you feel limited, stuck, unable to change your life? Because you've been taught to look for power outside yourself. From childhood, you learned that power comes from external things. Money gives you power. Status gives you power. Other people's approval gives you power. Circumstances give you power. You learn that you're subject to external forces, the economy, other people's decisions, your past, your genetics, your circumstances. You learn that you need to acquire power, earn power, gain power from outside sources. And this teaching has been a lie, a complete and total lie. The power you've been seeking outside yourself has been inside you all along. But because you believed you didn't have it, you didn't use it. Because you believed you were powerless, you acted powerless. Because you believed external things controlled you. External things appeared to control you. Your belief in your powerlessness became a self-fulfilling prophecy. But tonight that changes. Tonight you realize your power. Let me be very specific about what your power is and what it does. Your power is this: whatever you assume to be true becomes true in your experience. Not eventually, not if you're lucky, not if circumstances allow, always, without exception, as law. If you assume you're limited, you experience limitation. If you assume you're abundant, you experience abundance. If you assume you're loved, you experience love. If you assume you're powerful, you experience power. Your assumptions, conscious or unconscious, create your experienced reality. This is not metaphor. This is not symbolism. This is actual literal creation. When you assume something, you're not hoping it will happen. You're not wishing for it. You're not attracting it from somewhere else. You're creating it right now through your assumption. And here's the most important part. You're doing this constantly, whether you know it or not. Every assumption you hold is creating your reality right now. Every belief you carry is manifesting as your circumstances. Every habitual state you occupy is producing corresponding conditions in your world. You are always creating. The question is, are you creating consciously or unconsciously? Most people create unconsciously. They assume lack without knowing they're assuming it. They believe in limitation without realizing they're creating it. They occupy states of fear, worry, and doubt all day long, and then wonder why their life reflects those states. But once you realize your power, once you understand that you're creating everything through your assumptions, you can create consciously. You can choose what to assume. You can decide what to believe. You can deliberately occupy states that create the life you want. This is power. Real, creative, transformative power. And it's yours right now. Don't just take my word for this. Look at your own life. Everything you're experiencing right now, every condition, every circumstance, every relationship exists because of an assumption you held. Your financial situation reflects your assumptions about money. Your relationships reflect your assumptions about love, worth, and connection. Your health reflects your assumptions about your body. Your career reflects your assumptions about success and capability. Look at any area of your life, and you'll see your assumptions made manifest. This is why two people in identical circumstances can have completely different experiences. Same situation, different assumptions, different outcomes. One person assumes they can succeed despite obstacles. The other assumes obstacles prevent success. Both are right. Both create their assumed reality. One person assumes they're worthy of love. The other assumes they're not. Both experience exactly what they assume. The circumstances don't determine the outcome. The assumption determines the outcome. And this proves your power. Because if your assumptions create your reality, and you can change your assumptions, then you can change your reality. You're not a victim of circumstances. You're the creator of circumstances through your assumptions. This is your power. And once you see it, you can never unsee it. Now, here's where this gets uncomfortable for many people. If you have the power to create your reality through your assumptions, then you must take responsibility for what you've created. Not blame. Not guilt. Responsibility. The life you're living right now, you created it. Not consciously, perhaps. Not intentionally. But through your assumptions, beliefs, and habitual states, you created it. The lack you experience, you assumed lack. The rejection you feel, you assumed rejection. The limitation you encounter, you assumed limitation. This is not about making you feel bad. This is about making you feel powerful. Because if you created circumstances you don't want through unconscious assumptions, you can create circumstances you do want through conscious assumptions. You're not powerless. You never were. You just weren't aware of how you were using your power. But now you are aware. Now you realize I am the operant power. I am the creator. I am the cause. And when you take full responsibility for your power, when you stop blaming circumstances, other people, or external forces, you step into your full creative capacity. You stop being a victim and become a creator. So how do you use this power? Deliberately, consciously, effectively. It's simpler than you think. Step 1. Decide what you want to experience. Not what you think is possible. Not what seems realistic. What you actually want. Wealth, love, health, success, freedom, peace, whatever you desire. Step 2. Assume you already have it. Not that you will have it someday. That you have it now, in consciousness. Claim it as yours. This is where your power operates. In the assumption, in the claiming, in the acceptance of the desired state as already real. Step 3. Persist in that assumption, despite what your senses show you, despite what circumstances suggest, despite what other people say. Your assumption is reality. The external world will catch up. It must. This is law. Step 4. Let your assumption harden into fact. Through persistence, through faith, through unwavering occupancy of your desired state, your assumption becomes so real in consciousness that it must objectify in your world. This is how you use your power. This is how you create consciously. You don't beg. You don't hope. You don't wait. You assume. You claim. You know. And what you know in consciousness becomes what you experience in reality. Let me be very clear about the scope of your power. There is nothing in your life that you cannot change through a change in consciousness. Nothing. Your finances? Change your assumption about money, and your finances must change. Your relationships? Change your assumption about love and connection, and your relationships must transform. Your health? Change your assumption about your body, and your health must improve. your circumstances? Change your assumption about what's possible for you, and your circumstances must shift. Everything is changeable through consciousness. The only limitations you experience are the limitations you assume. The only boundaries you encounter are the boundaries you believe in. The only impossibilities you face are the impossibilities you accept as true. Change your assumptions, and you change your entire world. This is not exaggeration. This is not hyperbole. This is the literal, actual, demonstrable power you possess. You are not a small, limited, powerless creature, subject to external forces. You are consciousness. And consciousness is the only reality. And consciousness creates all things. This means you are the creator of your world. You have the power to reshape, rebuild, and transform every single aspect of your experience. The question is, will you use this power consciously, or will you continue to use it unconsciously? The shift from feeling powerless to realizing your power is instantaneous. It happens the moment you truly understand. I am not subject to circumstances. Circumstances are subject to me, to my consciousness, to my assumptions, to my state. When this understanding clicks, when you really get it, everything changes. You stop asking if you can have what you want and start claiming it. You stop wondering how it will happen and start knowing it will. You stop looking for permission from external sources and start giving yourself permission through assumption. You stop living as a victim and start living as a creator. This doesn't mean you become arrogant or controlling. It means you become aware, conscious, deliberate. You recognize that the power you've been seeking, praying for, hoping for, has been within you all along. You are the power. You always have been. Tonight I want you to do something specific. Think about one area of your life where you feel powerless, where you feel stuck, where you feel like circumstances control you. Maybe it's money, maybe it's love, maybe it's health, maybe it's your career. Now I want you to recognize you created this situation through your assumptions, not intentionally, not maliciously, but through unconscious assumptions of limitation, lack, or impossibility. You created what you're experiencing. And if you created it unconsciously, you can create something different consciously. Tonight before you sleep, assume the opposite. Assume you have power in this area. Assume you can change it. Assume the desired outcome is already yours. Feel what it feels like to be powerful in this situation, to have control, to be the creator rather than the victim. And tomorrow wake up knowing I am not powerless. I have never been powerless. I am the operant power in my life. And then live from that knowing. Make decisions from that power. Think from that creative capacity. Watch how quickly your experience changes when you realize your power and use it consciously. Let me end with this truth. You are not here to beg life for what you want. You are not here to hope and pray and wish. You are not here to be a victim of circumstances. You are here to create, to shape reality through consciousness, to manifest your desires through assumption. This is your power. This has always been your power. And the moment you realize it, truly realize it, your entire life transforms. Because a person who knows their power doesn't struggle. They don't fight. They don't force. They simply assume, persist, and manifest. This is who you are. This is what you can do. You are not powerless. You are not limited. You are not subject to external forces. You are consciousness. You are the creator. You are the power. Realize it. Accept it. Use it. Your entire world is waiting to reflect the power you finally recognize within yourself. You are far more powerful than you know. But now you're beginning to realize it. Thank you and good evening. As always, thank you for joining me on this journey into the depths of consciousness. Remember, you are not here by accident. You are here because your soul is ready for this truth. Take these teachings and let them transform not just your mind, but your entire reality. Until we meet again in consciousness, keep assuming your greatness and living from the end of your desires. This is Best of Lectures, and I'll see you in the next video.